Okay, I'm back with John Goldacre of GoldAcre Estates in Fuerteventura in the Canary Islands. How you doing, John?
I'm good, Alfredo. Very nice to see you again on this Monday morning, sunny Monday morning.
Here's one question I wanted to ask you, something that's sort of been hitting the news quite a bit in the last since we last spoke. And this is from many fronts, but the general topic is what is being covered by particularly by the UK media about this sort of like anti-tourism protest thing being going off in the islands, both the Balearics and the Canaries, as well as like Barcelona and several other parts of Spain. What do you make of all of this?
Well, like all things, sometimes the press is the press, and it's all about getting readers to their platforms, to the newspapers. It's not nothing like that people are making out. I mean, here I think there was one protest in Puerto del Rosario, and you're not talking about millions of people going, because we don't have millions of people here, of course, but I mean very, very small numbers. And these are, unfortunately, sometimes people that have missed an opportunity and not really jumped on the bandwagon and then blaming everything else other than themselves for not being a party to it, really, at the end of the day. And, some of it is sensationalism. Some of the things like the water cannon things in Barcelona, which was a real disappointment because, those are not, it's not good, but it's good publicity. But it really doesn't give a true picture of what it is. I mean, tourists here are welcomed. As I said, we have really a massive mixture of totally different tourism here. And everybody lives and works in harmony here. I mean, there is no big mass problem. And I think, sometimes when you read the press and you look at some of the things that come through on Google alerts I think, my goodness me, is this a different planet we're on? You know what I mean? So
Yeah, yeah. So there is some concern, but it certainly isn't in the sort of thing that a tourist arriving on the airport is going to get hailed with eggs or anything like that, right?
no, 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 no. And I think the other thing as well is, I think the key focus is not where it should be, which is tourism. It's on the local government for not providing affordable housing, that sort of thing. Because, with all due respect, they have not done any construction for affordable housing or assisted living. And so it is really the government that's really the main problem to this, which is not actually helping from that point of view.
And in Spain, these are the ones that they call VPO, no VPO, which is
BPOs,
essentially
exactly.
like a council house type
Exactly,
thing, right?
exactly right. Yeah, I mean that's exactly right. And they've not been building any of that. I mean, there's been, obviously, in the crisis, there were lots of complexes that came up from banks and things like that. They have not purchased one. They've not, that they could have actually done a lot more for the local population. And this, I believe, is where some of the problem lies, really, from that point of view. But it's of course directed at tourism, because tourism is bringing, I mean, the islands are nothing without tourism. I mean, it's our lifeblood. I mean, we've had 1.6 million tourists here in the first 6 months of the year to the end of June. So, that brings a lot of revenues to and jobs. This is the most important thing. There wouldn't be the jobs if we didn't have the tourism. So,
It's
you
sort of
know,
catch, yeah, it's a sort of catch 22. It's the scenario where they're saying that the people that are hired to service the tourism industry can't get accommodation because it's not affordable. But if there was no tourism, they'd have no jobs, so there wouldn't be the conversation in the first place,
correct.
right? What about, and this is slightly on a separate vein, but I think it's kind of related. This push generally by the Spanish government, it appears, to exercise some degree of control over the proliferation of Airbnbs, short-term, tourist rentals.
Yeah.
Some argument is saying that the real emphasis is to crack down on unregistered, unlicensed ones. Others, it feels like it's just a general crackdown on sort of controlling it, certainly in cities like Barcelona and some other places. What's your thoughts on all that?
My thoughts are very much in line with your first comment, which is a lot of it is driving towards making sure we're getting licensed tourism rentals. I mean, there's a lot of people that still think that they can fly under the radar. But I mean, the whole point of it was to actually bring a standard to the rental market. Of course, there is a little bit in terms of restricting, but the key thing is if they say restricted didn't give any more tourist rental licenses, then people will go to long term. But that's not going to bring down the prices. I mean, this is the thing. Part of again the little twist from the government's point of view. Well, this is going to help us bring more long-term rentals to market. But long-term rentals. I mean, people, and particularly in the Canary Islands, long-term rentals are very, very sought after and really hard to find today.
Yeah, I think, is it fair to say that one of the simplifications that perhaps the government's overlooking is that people that own a holiday home and look to rent it out when they're not using it, they can't do a long-term rental because it means they won't be able to use it themselves.
Correct. That's absolutely right.
So it's not even an option. It'd be empty otherwise, rather than.
Correct. Yeah, there would be actually people just using them when they came over. So the real drive should be, and it makes sense, is to make sure that everybody that is renting their property is doing it in a correct way, i.e. having a license, paying their taxes, because that's what the government needs. They are after their tax dollars all of the time. So I believe that is the right way to go. And of course, there are some complexes. They are talking about, giving communities more power to actually revoke having tourism on a complex from that point of view. So, there's lots of different things going on. But the other thing as well is a lot of it is down to the individual town halls. So it's not a consistent thing. It's the whole of Spain. So one town hall might be saying, well, we're going to do it this way. Another town hall, we've got 5 different town halls here in Fuerteventura, for example. And there isn't a consistent policy with them all. So it just depends on which municipality you're working in.
So what would be your advice for someone that's looking to buy a holiday home in Fuerteventura, has heard that there is this thing going on where they're looking at maybe limiting the number of tourist licenses that they are issuing? What would be your advice to them if they're thinking about maybe renting it out when they're not using it?
My view is they should be certainly today applying for a tourist rental license, because once you have it, it can't be revoked. Okay, they can restrict what they're going to do in the future, but today, there is no restrictions in place in what they're actually granting. So, if your property does qualify, then get that rental license today. Get the VB rental license today. Get your property registered. Get yourself set up, because then that gives you that degree of flexibility. The other important thing is, it makes the properties, potentially more saleable. But of course, the license isn't transferable, right? But it just means that it actually has qualified previously in the past.
Gotcha.
This is an important thing from a selling point of view as well.
Yeah, I've heard a few lawyers. I mean, it's all a little, as typically is the case, is a little bit gray for open to interpretation, both by communities of owners as well as by town halls, but also by law firms. Some are saying that you can't transfer them. Some are saying that there's a way of doing it, and others are saying that if you sell somewhere in a community that has restricted the number of licenses that they're going to issue to some sort of quota, that if you sell it, then you lose your chip and and you're back into the general pool. So I think yeah, that seems to be the logical thing to say, is if you have the possibility of getting, even if maybe you're not necessarily overtly planning on using it for short-term rentals in the next few months, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
I've got a property myself, which is, we call our weekend. We never get there at weekends, but it's a property that I have, but I've actually got a VV license. So it gives me that flexibility on that property to do just that, and guarantees me that ability to generate an income if I need it.
So what we're saying, so in summary, is there is been some concern about mass tourism. It's not as widespread or as hectic as it appears on the news, and that the government's attempts to control tourist rights license is more of an issue of controlling those that are not registered correctly, and perhaps exercising some limit of control if it is getting a little bit out of hand. Does that sound about right?
It sounds about right, yes. And of course, the other thing as well is the other the other thing that comes into this little equation of everything is the hotels. The hotels always want people to be going into the hotels, and so they have got a quite big say because they're big employers and things like that. So they're always there. I mean, they were the biggest objectors to VB licenses in the first place.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, it's a bit like Uber and taxis, huh? Similar sort of scenario.
Exactly.
Right,
Exactly.
gotcha.
So there's this constant thing going on, and it's a question of finding that balance of living and working together, really, at the end of the day, and trying to tick all the boxes.
Well, John, thank you so much for shedding some cold water on the heated topic.
As I said, there was one protest in Puerto del Rosario, which got a small following, but that's it. You don't have anybody in the airport putting you off. You don't. I mean, it's a free, comfortable place to be.
Okay, well, that's great. Thank you so much, John, and I will definitely be checking back in on you the next piece of news that comes our way because it's always great to hear it from the horse's mouth.
Absolutely. We've got a great team of people here to look after our clients, and thinking about the marketplace here, come and talk to us. We'll talk to you. We'll sit you down. I think one of the most important things for us, Alfredo, is making things clear to people. I think this is the potential clients. We spend a lot of time sitting down, talking with them, and just talking about these things, these hot topics of conversation and best ways of going about it, putting them in touch with the right legal resources and that type of thing. So we've got a great team of people here, and this is what we spend a lot of time doing.
Well, with the description of this video, we'll have the link to your website where people can get all your details to get in touch with you if they have any questions or they're thinking of buying or selling. And great to speak to you. Thank you so much, John.
And you too, Alfredo. You take care. Nice to see you again.